Hey guys, welcome to this Monday's paint along. My name is Allie. If this is your first time here, I do these weekly paint along demos every Monday at 5 Eastern. We've been doing a summer cocktail series. So this is the cold brew paint along, so cheers. We don't always paint alcohol, but you know, this summer we are. So we're doing a little 4-part series. This is the third one. So today we're painting a beer, a nice, delicious looking beer that I thought would be good on a hot day this summer. So yeah, I'm glad that you guys are here. As I mentioned, we do these paint alongs every week, and it's not just a live demo, but I also invite you to paint right along with me. So I offer a download that has the outlines, just like what I have on my panel, that you can trace at home onto your panel. So you can either do that beforehand, many of you already have and you're ready to go, or I have people who do this afterwards as a replay. So you can always watch these videos afterwards. They are on my Facebook page under the videos tab. Hi Marcella, hi Janet, hi Dawn. Dawn's painting with me, awesome, I love it. I love seeing that. Yeah, so if you guys are here, please say hello in the comments. Let us know where you are joining us from, because it's always so much fun to see that. And it's also fun to hear if you are painting along with us. Let me know if you're enjoying a beer too. Let me know what kind you have. I have a Corona Light in my mug, even though it's a Sam Adams mug. I didn't have any Sam Adams, so oh well. Hi Mary. And hi Elena. Oh, you're painting with me, love it. And before we jump in, let me address the paintings behind me. I mentioned this last week, but since we always have new people, the portrait paintings you see behind me are part of my brand new online course. So this is not a paint along. This is like a full-blown online course where I take you step by step through these 3 samples. My course is called Features and Faces, and I just launched it last Thursday, and the intro pricing is going through July 1st only. So if you guys are interested in painting portraits with me, I highly recommend that you get that course before the end of the intro pricing. So, all right, enough about that. I just always want to make sure everybody knows. All right, so let's get started and let's start painting this beer, okay? All right, so I'm gonna move the camera in. And I want you to be able to see my reference image and see my palette. Let's see, I'll adjust it so you can see a little bit more. That looks pretty good. Hi Kay in sunny Florida. Sounds nice. It's sunny here in Tennessee as well. I'm in Chattanooga. And it is a beautiful hot sunny day right now. All right, so outlines are on the panel. I painted over them using my skinny little script liner brush, and I used Alizarin Crimson, Payne's Gray, and Titanium White to make this light purple color, but that color is not going to matter too much. So just kind of think about making a neutral. I put some white in it to help kind of cancel out the pencil lines from the graphite. I used transfer paper to do that. And we don't want these lines to be too dark. That's why I dull it down with some white and lighten it up a bit, because we just want these lines to be, you know, kind of like the blueprint. It's just going to be like that basic roadmap. And then the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to jump in and start finding the shadows, and I am using I'm using Golden Fluid Acrylics. I always like to make sure I tell everybody, for the new people that are watching, that is what I'm using. And the download with the outlines has a list of the paint colors that I purchase and use in this demo. So I'm going to make a wash with Alizarin Crimson and Payne's Gray watered down. I'm going to use a lot of water in this wash, and I'm just going to start finding the shadows. So that's kind of how we start all the demos, regardless of what we're painting. We just start washing in the shadows with this kind of dark neutral purple color. So I'm comparing each side of the line. I'm gonna tip my panel out a little. It was going to move on me. Hopefully you can still see it. All right, I'm comparing each side of the line, and I'm looking at my reference image. I'm asking myself which side is light, which side is dark, and I'm washing in the shadows to correspond with that. I need a little bit bigger brush. I'm gonna go right in and grab, let's see, I'm gonna grab this one. We'll see how this one's kind of worn out. I need some new brushes. I said that last week and then I didn't get any new ones. So here I am again. I'm missing like a really good number 7 brush. That's what I need. But I can wash these in with my big brush. This is a number 9. So I'm comparing lights and darks, like I mentioned. I put some outlines in there to kind of show where some of these little highlights are in the background, but we don't really want those lines to stay. I'm kind of chipping away at those. Wasn't sure if I should include those or not, but I thought I'd throw them in. So the whole left side is dark. Hi Judy, thank you for sharing the demo. I always appreciate that. You always share it, and that helps me out so much. If you guys enjoy my demos, if you would hit that share button, I so appreciate it. It helps new people find me and start painting with me and start enjoying these demos as well. So I really appreciate that. So I'm just moving along. I'm not going super dark because this is just the first pass. This is just kind of basic comparing light versus dark. We'll come back in the next pass and we will push the darks a little bit darker. So it's all pretty light up here. I don't know if I'll wash any of that in. Move this a little bit darker here. It's kind of dark under the mug. And then going into the mug, we've got a little dark shadow here, a little bit there, going pretty light. It's dark right along here. And, you know, I thought as I was kind of making this template, it will be really easy to get carried away with putting too many of these little details in the mug of beer. So we're gonna really be selective in how we pick and choose what is going to be included and what's not, because, and especially in the reflections, like in the handle, that is really easy to kind of go a little crazy. And I'm just gonna pull up my video here on my computer so I can watch you all. Hi Carrie, this is your first time watching it live? Awesome, happy to see that. It's fun to watch it as a replay too, but it is a little bit different when you get to be right here live with me. And I encourage you guys to ask me questions. Like I said, I just pulled up the demo on my other screen so that I can kind of watch and see what you guys have to say and hopefully get the chance to respond during the demo. Ooh, I wanted to keep that light. There's that highlight right there. That's all right. If you filled yours in, don't worry, we'll pull that back out. All right. Okay, we got a little shadow on the left side here. And this little bit, and I think, you know, I think that's about it for this first pass. So now we're gonna come back and push the darker tones that I see in this image a little bit darker. And so we're gonna go back with the same 2 colors, Alizarin Crimson and Payne's Gray, but now we're going to have a little bit less water in there so that it'll be a tad darker. And we're just gonna push those dark areas a little bit further. So I'm looking to see, where do I see that it's the darkest? Well, I see kind of down here, towards the bottom here, and right up against this edge, it picks up pretty dark. Again, on the other side, and that's going to push that handle out at us. Same thing here. Then the background gets light there. So the background kind of jumps around. And we've got some darks right in the handle here too. So the handle kind of has like this glowing edge, but there's also some dark tones within the handle shape. I probably should switch down to my smaller brush now, but you know, it's all right. We're gonna keep going. And it's dark up here. Again, this recipe is Alizarin Crimson and Payne's Gray. And it's all pretty dark over on the left side, but I'm not gonna take my dark all the way to the edge because I like to kind of leave some brighter little pops kind of going around the outside of my panel. So I'm not gonna drag that dark all the way solid on that left side. I wanna leave myself a little bit of room to play. As we get into the later layers, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about when I say play. All right. And where else do we see it kind of dark? I suppose right in here it's a little bit dark. And up there. This feels a little bit dark. So if you are doing this on your own, you know, you might, if you're looking at, like, say you're painting a different image, I say print that image in black and white when you're doing this stage, because that helps you to just kind of focus on the value and not the tone. Oh, awesome, Carrie. Carrie says she just is loving the new Features and Faces course. It's a fantastic group of lessons. Thank you, Carrie. I really appreciate that shout out. I am so excited about that class. I've said this a few times. It is my very best class yet. So I started teaching online courses, like the full online courses, about 3 years ago. And I've come a long way. I'll just say that. So this one, I really feel like it's pretty awesome, guys. It's the best of everything I've got. So I'll just say that. I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. All right, so I think we are ready to do the wash of underpainting. So we want to make sure that these colors are dry. So if you've got some drips, you want to go in and blot them, because we're going to do a wash of a complementary color underpainting over our whole piece. We don't want to have any white. And while I wait for that to dry, I'm going to take a sip of my delicious mug of beer. And I'm also going to look and see if you guys have any questions. And yeah, let me know if you've got anything you're wondering about. And feel free to ask me about the Faces and Features class, or Features and Faces. I'm happy to answer those questions too while I'm working. All right, so we're gonna do this wash. So complementary color means opposite color on the color wheel, but I don't always do the true opposite. I kind of push it, play around a little bit, and kind of use what I feel is going to work well for the image. So I'm going to call the beer, I'm gonna call that basically like a gold or an orange. And so I think for my opposite for that, I am going to use, I'm gonna do phthalo blue. Phthalo blue green shade is actually the color. And that color is insanely intense. So I'm gonna add a ton of water, really thin it down. And I'm gonna wash over just the area that is going to be that gold color. So I'm not gonna put this underneath the white parts of the mug where we've got like the frothy top and the bottom of the mug. I'm not gonna put it there because that area looks cool to me in the over painting. So I'm gonna make a warm underpainting for that area. So this is just going where we see that orange gold tone. Let's see. Preeti is asking, can we have a live Monday class anytime with a small portrait? I'm gonna have to think about that one. Yeah, I'll take that into consideration. I'm actually taking a little break from the Monday paint-alongs in the month of July. So I'm going to kind of enjoy my summer vacation with my kids. And so our last weekly paint-along for this series will be next week. And then I will be off in July and I will come back to you in August. All right, so for those white areas that I mentioned that are going to be cool, we're gonna wash those in with a warm color. And I'm gonna do my burnt orange recipe, which is Hansa Yellow Opaque and Alizarin Crimson. So I'm gonna wash those two together and make kind of a nice burnt orange. And we're gonna put that down in the area that's going to be this kind of white blue. So it's gonna flip basically. And we'll do that up at the top as well. I'm washing this in pretty light because I know it's going to be pretty light in the over painting. I'm not trying to stay really tight to the lines. I'm putting it in pretty loose. And I'm gonna use this in the handle too. Just kind of slapping it in there, not worrying about being too specific. All right. And now the background, we've got, so we've got a lot of green tones here, and over on the left side, we've got kind of blue tones in the over painting. So I'm gonna think about what I wanna do for my opposite there. And I think underneath the green, I think I'm going to do quinacridone magenta. One of my favorite colors from Golden. I love it. All right, so we're gonna put quinacridone magenta on the right side. On the left side, I'm gonna do something a little different, I think. I'm gonna wash this in over here. So those of you that join me all the time for these paint-alongs, I am sure you're starting to see kind of a pattern with a lot of the same colors that I'm using for underpaintings. And it's because they work really well. So this one looks really good as an underpainting. The burnt orange looks really good. I mean, I have about maybe 5 or 6 colors that I use over and over again for my underpaintings, and they just look killer when you layer on top of them. This is one of them. Okay, on the left side, we are going to, maybe I'll bring that magenta over a little bit more because I see kind of those green tones there. I'm gonna pop that in. Okay. Now on the left side where I said I kind of consider that a blue, I think over there, I'm going to make a darker version of this burnt orange. So I'm gonna go back to the Alizarin Crimson and Hansa Yellow Opaque, but I'm going to keep it quite a bit more opaque now. So I'm not gonna add the water in there, and I'm gonna put this in pretty dark. It's gonna be like more of the Alizarin Crimson, I suppose, because the Hansa Yellow makes it kind of lighter. But I'm putting this in full strength. So I'm got a little messy there. I'm not toning this down with water. I'm just putting this on heavy, so it's gonna be nice and dark. We'll do this over here. And then over here, it does get lighter, so I'm gonna add a little bit of water there, and we'll just wash that in. Put a little more yellow in maybe. All right. Now that I go back and look at my underpainting so far, I feel like I want this wash to be maybe a little bit darker, especially over here where it's a bit darker. So I'm just gonna go back with a second pass of this burnt orange over on that side. The right side's gonna be pretty bright. I'll probably leave that, but I feel like the rest of it I want a little bit darker over on that side too. Okay. Now you might notice that in the reference image, the left side at the top, this white, it's cool on the right, but it's actually kind of warm on the left. So you might be wondering, like, why didn't you do the opposite? Why didn't you make it cool over on the left and put blue down under that? And the reason I didn't is I feel like I don't need the underpainting to be so busy. I try to generalize my underpaintings. So even though this white band up here feels warmer over on the left, I'm just gonna kind of ignore that. I might paint it warmer when I do my overpainting, but I'm not gonna flip the underpainting there because that just gets to be too much work, not necessary. All right, and let's also push this phthalo blue a little bit darker, like where it's going to be a little bit darker over there. So I'm gonna come back with a second pass of that phthalo blue as well, just to push it a little bit more. You might not have to. Your phthalo blue might be dark enough already because I've noticed in general, Usually people end up doing a little too dark with the phthalo blue. It's just so strong. You barely need any color at all, and it really takes over. So that might already be the case on yours, and don't worry about it if that's the case. We're gonna layer on top. All right, so my underpainting is in there. Now we want this to be dry before we layer more. So again, another good time to take a drink of your beer if you have one. Yeah, and if you guys are watching this as a replay, feel free to chime in. Let us know if you're enjoying it with beer and what you are having. I love to see it. All right. Oop. Trying to pull up my comments again. I keep losing them on you guys. Okay. All right, so let's move forward. We're gonna start adding the color. All right. So let's start where it's dry. Where's it dry? It's wet right there. So let's start with some of the, let's see. Let's find a place where it's dry. I think it's dry up here. We're gonna start with the green in the background just because it's dry there. So we're gonna make that yellowy green using Hansa Yellow Opaque. And I'll point out, you guys see how my palette is just like covered in color? It's because I don't clean my palettes. I just let it get gunked up and then I peel it out in one swoop. So that's why you're seeing the remnants of all my other paintings. So Hansa Yellow Opaque, just a speck of phthalo green blue shade. And I mean like a speck because I barely touched it and you can see how it's super, super intense. And we're gonna tone it down by adding some Pyrrole red light to it. That will neutralize our green, making it a little bit more of an olive green and not such like an in-your-face green. And now I'm gonna start thinning my paint with Liquitex Matte Medium, or you can use any glazing medium. But I'm gonna find a clean spot to put this. As I do the overpainting, after I've done the underpainting washes, I start thinning my paint with glazing medium instead, because then the paint kind of keeps its consistency and its body and it's not all runny, but it makes it transparent where I want it to be. Okay, so we have this nice kind of yellow olivey green here, and I'm going to start dropping this in where I see those highlights in the background. And also I'm thinking about kind of chipping away at those little outlines that we put in. But I'm also thinking about not covering up all of the magenta. So we want to kind of make the outlines go away, but we don't want all that magenta to go away. A lot of things to remember, I know, but a good rule of thumb is just you can always cover up more magenta later, so start by covering up less. It's hard to bring it back. It's almost impossible. Okay, so I'm just gonna do that much right there. I'm gonna put some in the background here. And by having that glaze in there, it's kind of allowing some of that underpainting to shine through. Just kind of dropping that in. We see a little bit of it in the handle because the handle is glass, so it's reflecting or showing the colors that it is surrounded by. So we're going to drop a lot of different colors into the handle here. And, you know, while I've got this on my brush, I'm going to put a little bit into the beer too because I kind of see some green tones poking around in there. I think that'll be good for later on. Okay, so now we're going to push it a little bit darker because I'm still waiting for some of this to dry. So we're gonna make this background color a little bit more of a deeper olive green. So I'm going to do that by adding a little bit more green and more Pyrrole red to it. So probably you might even need more Pyrrole red than you do green because otherwise it's gonna get too crazy green. So again, this mixture is Hansa Yellow Opaque, Phthalo Green Blue shade, and Pyrrole Red Light. And I always like to make my greens more of an olive tone. And maybe that's just me, but I don't like a really intense emerald green in my paintings. That's probably just me. Maybe some people love that. Okay. So I'm just kind of building up, kind of making a transition here into the dark side over here. Layering on top of the pink purple tone that we've already laid down, but I'm still leaving lots of little windows of it showing. And it's probably good. Okay. Actually, let's put a little bit over here on the left too, because I do kind of see that dark green tone in the mug right there. Maybe a little bit in the handle here. Yeah. All right. Now, let's put this dark blue in the background. So I'm going to make that blue with not phthalo blue, Payne's Gray. We're gonna make it with Payne's Gray and a little bit of Alizarin Crimson. Payne's Gray and Alizarin Crimson. And we're gonna add a little white in there. So this is gonna make kind of a purple tone. And I'm also going to thin it with some glazing medium. So this is Payne's Gray, Alizarin Crimson, white. Just a speck of white. And we're gonna push that into some of the dark areas, and that's gonna make that mug come out at us by pushing this into those darks. But again, not covering up all of that underpainting. But this is gonna build a lot of dimension. You know how we washed the darks in with the underpainting earlier? This is gonna push those darks even further, which makes the brights look brighter. It's kind of that push and pull. So again, it's going back into a lot of the same areas we already washed the underpainting, but this has a lot more pop to it. Kind of squinting at my image, looking for those really dark tones. I see some in the handle here. All right. Okay, now let's put some color in that beer because this is just distracting me the way it is right now. Let's see, Preeti asks, what is the brand of brushes you use? So the brushes that I'm using, these are Royal Langnickel brushes, and I actually buy a teacher pack of these. It comes in a 60 pack from Dick Blick. And so the 60 pack has like a bunch of sets, but it'll have a 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. And it's a great deal. So the 60 pack of brushes is like just over $50 for all of them. So I like them. It's a bit of an investment, but then when a brush gets a little bit old, you can just throw it away. So that's what I go with. And so these are square tip brushes. I don't remember what else I can say about them, but I think it's pretty easy to find them on Dick Blick. All right, so let's go in and make that gold tone for the beer. So it's the brightest over on the right. We're gonna make that gold tone with, let's see, Alizarin Crimson and Hansa Yellow Opaque. We're gonna start with those two, and then we will brighten this up later, but we're gonna start by putting those two colors in. So Alizarin Crimson, Hansa Yellow Opaque. You'll remember that's the same recipe we used for this underpainting. And this will make kind of that brown mustardy tone, and it's going to look a little bit more green because we are layering it on top of the blue. So don't worry if you feel like the color is coming out more green on your painting than what you see on your palette. That's okay, because we're going to layer on top of it, and as we build up more layers, it will become more yellow and gold. That's kind of the fun part of working with an underpainting, is you can control how much the later layers are going to stand out by how thick you put them on and how much you layer them up. All right, I think that's about enough of this dark tone. Now we're gonna brighten it up a bit. So now I'm going to add more Hansa Yellow Opaque to it. And maybe I'll just put that in first. Yeah, let's drop that in. I'm going to make sure I don't cover up all my blue though. That's very easy to do. And also I forgot to tell you guys not to. So don't cover up all your blue. We want to leave that underpainting popping around because it's going to pay off in the end. So I'm just looking to see where I see these bright kind of yellowy tones in the mug. And I'm actually still using my number 9, but you guys might want to use a smaller brush. If I had a good smaller brush right now, I would be using it. All right. Kind of squinting if I want to fill in that area. I'm going to add a little glaze to it to thin it out a bit. And then I'm going to put a pass in this area because this kind of feels a little more green to me. So by thinning it out, it's going to allow, oh, I covered up too much blue. It's going to allow that blue to poke through the way I want it to. All right. Okay, that feels pretty good for right now. This is very wet, so my plan is to brighten this yellow part up right here, but I'm gonna let that dry, and I am going to work on the white parts of the mug. Kay is asking, she's gonna use a box canvas. What do you do for the sides? I usually just paint the sides of my board, the color that matches the painting. So I'm working on these like birch wood panels, so I'll paint this a dark color usually that will match my painting. I don't usually work on canvas, but you would do canvas pretty much the same way. Okay, so for the whites, we talked about how we're going to put that in kind of a cool tone. So I'm going to start a little bit on the darker side and then build it a little bit brighter. So I'm going to use titanium white, and I'm going to add a little bit of Payne's gray to it to make it a little bit darker. And I'm also going to put a little speck of alizarin crimson in there. So it's going to be kind of a purpley tone. And I'm going to thin it with some glazing medium to let my underpainting show through. And then I'll just kind of start building up that color. So I'm kind of paying attention to like those ridges in the shape of the glass, but I'm not trying to get just too crazy with how I interpret them. I'm just looking for the highlights, still trying to leave that underpainting. Ooh, my brush is a little bit wet there. Some of that underpainting picked up. I didn't want that to happen. That is part of what happens in a live demo when you're painting quickly. But it's okay. Sometimes it's a happy accident. You never know. All right. Bring some of this up into the glass. And you see how, like, when I'm trying to get into a small area, I will turn my brush on the side, and that's why I like these brushes if they're nice and clean and in good shape, because then you can use the big brush in a big area, turning it this way, but you can turn it on its side and really get into some tighter spaces if you've got a nice clean edge. So these are cheap brushes, but a cheap, good new brush is always better than an expensive old brush that has been worn out. And expensive brushes probably do last longer, but I feel like when I pay, you know, like $1 per brush, I don't feel bad about saying goodbye to them and moving on to the next one. All right, then up here, we're gonna add some Also, think about the edges of your beer here. You don't need it to be like this perfectly clean, hard edge. Kind of let it play with the background a little bit, because we're trying to stay loose with these brush strokes, but if you have like this crystal clear hard edge on the side of your beer, that's going to be kind of like a giveaway that it doesn't quite fit with everything else that's going on. So don't be afraid to let it be a little irregular. All right. So we've got some bright tones in the background here too. They're a little bit darker. I'm gonna mix more of that same color, but I'm gonna use some more Payne's Gray in there. So it's still Payne's Gray and Alizarin Crimson and White, but it's gonna be a little bit darker. And add some glaze in there. Mixed up kind of a lot of it. See how I like scrape the edges of my brush on the palette? I'm even offloading it onto my rag a little bit. Okay, we're gonna drop some of this into the background. And I don't know what this is sitting on in the image. This is a photo that I got from a free photo sharing website called Unsplash, and so it was a free to use photo. But I can't tell, it kind of feels like the beer is sitting on like something rounded, because you kind of see the edge of it, like it almost looks like the beer is about to fall off, I feel like. And so I think I'm actually gonna bring this edge up a little bit so that it doesn't look like the beer is gonna fall off the edge of whatever it's sitting on. So I think we're gonna try bringing it up above the beer. I'm gonna bring that edge up a little. And over here, I'm gonna add a little white to pull it up, make a bright edge right there. Sometimes you just have to adjust your reference image so that it works better with what you're trying to do. Because if something looks wonky like that, it's like, okay, we don't want that beer to fall off. It might be okay in a photo, but it might just not work for the painting. So I'm gonna try pulling mine up. We'll see what happens. We'll see if I keep it like that, I don't know. Covered up too much pink there. All right. Now I want to go back to these white areas, and I'm going to mix up a new brighter color, but this time I'm going to use a little bit of phthalo blue, which is that strong blue. I'm going to do phthalo blue and white, just a tiny, tiny speck of phthalo blue. Tiny, 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 because it takes over. And I'm going to put some of that color into our blue tones here. Add a little glazing medium in there. Yeah, that looks nice. I like that. So I'm looking for those highlights, kind of paying attention to where the highlights go right up against the edge of that line going through the beer. And this color again is phthalo blue and white. I'll put a little more phthalo blue in there. So by putting that slightly more muted, more purple tone down first, that kind of built up our base to drop these highlights in and really give them the chance to stand out because they're against the duller tone. And put our highlights in up towards the top here. It's the brightest over here on the right. And then we kind of see that rib of the glass overhangs a little bit over on the left side too. So I'm getting pretty tight up here where I'm looking at like the edges where they need to be straight. So I mentioned having them loose, but you don't want it to be like this awkward arc shape where it's going to make your glass just seem like something's not right. And I guess we've got this highlight coming up a little bit right here. Okay, now I'm gonna switch down to a smaller brush to put these highlights onto my handle. So I'm gonna keep using the same color recipe, the phthalo blue and white, but I'm gonna go down to my number 3 and put them on that handle. I'm gonna make a little bit more of that phthalo blue and white. So far I was doing all of that with a number 9 brush. And for this being like an 8x10 painting, that was kind of a big brush, but it worked. It was okay. Okay, so in here where we want to get a little bit tighter, just looking for those brightest glowing highlights that we see. Kind of building up that shape on the reflective surface of the glass. Yeah, and we want to be pretty tight and accurate with where these little highlights are, because this is kind of important. I talk a lot about how, you know, sometimes I'm really loosey-goose like with the background, but sometimes when it comes to something like this, it's like the shape of what's going on in this handle, then we need to get pretty specific. It's kind of, I talk about that in my eyes demo and in my faces class, how like when you go into the eyes, you don't want to mess around there. It has to be just right. Or the person's not going to look like themselves. But when you paint like their shirt, for example, like you can go nuts and go have fun with the pattern and different stuff going on. But like those features, they have to be pretty specific, pretty accurate. Okay. Now I want to make that highlight a bit brighter, so I put it in with the blue first. Now I'm going to add a lot more white. I'm actually going to just put some more white into my blue mixture directly so that it's going to be really bright, almost straight white. I'm going to catch those brightest highlights on the handle. So where do we see it the brightest? We see it right here. See, I'm even like steadying my finger with, or my hand with my finger here. So I want to get that just right. I should probably even go down to a smaller brush, but it's okay. And this is pretty bright right here. And then down here, we've got it pretty bright. We'll pull out those very brightest areas in the mug. You see how this bright white stands out against the base that was there. Allows us to place where those really bright tones are. And really make them glow. It's pretty bright here. So we don't want to put this bright white everywhere. We just want to put it in the brightest areas that we see, because then it will have more impact. If we put it in too many places, it loses its strength. And that's kind of just a good rule of thumb anytime you're doing a highlight. If you put it too many places, it's not cool anymore. All right. I'm going to go back and put that blue highlight kind of on the edge of our tabletop that we were talking about that we bumped up, because I don't really see it over here. So I'm going to put mine right there to kind of show that edge off, the edge that I moved. But I think it's better. We'll see. All right, let's pull some of the bright yellowy highlights out in the mug. Now that this is dry, we can look for those brightest sections. So we're gonna do that bright yellow tone with, let's see, we're gonna use Hansa Yellow Opaque, and we're gonna just put a little bit of Pyrrole Red Light in there. I need more Hansa Yellow. And then we're also going to add a little bit of white as well. So this is going to make more of a bright orange color where we had more of a dull orange before. We're just gonna put a little speck of white in. I'll just put a little bit of my white from there. So we started duller. Now we're gonna pop it in where we see it real bright. And I'm not blending this color in, I'm just kind of laying it down pretty thick. And because we've got that base built up, it's gonna stand out pretty nice. Still leaving that underpainting here and there, poking around. Maybe put a little of this in the handle too. Yeah, that looks good. And let's see. In some places, this bright reflection is kind of like following like the sweat and the drips on the glass. So it's not gonna always be like perfectly straight lines. It's kind of reflecting the water in the glass. But this is the fun part. After we've built up that base, we can kind of just drop these little highlights in where we see them, and they really make it start to pop. So in general, I like to kind of layer light over dark. So we built up some of those dark, more neutral tones, and then we can kind of drop in these brighter, more opaque highlights on top, and they get to do what they do. All right, it's coming along. Okay, so I think I'm gonna move back into the background. So I like to kind of jump around, kind of work my whole panel, not get too tied down in just one area. I'm probably gonna go even brighter on the mug, but I'm gonna let this set up for a minute, and I'm gonna pull out these bright green highlights in the background. So we're gonna do that bright green. We're gonna go back to the same recipe we were using for bright green. And that was Hansa Yellow Opaque, tiny speck of phthalo green blue shade, like hardly any. And we're gonna add some white to it. And I already put too much phthalo green in, so I'm gonna have to add more yellow to it. And I'm gonna tone it down just the tiniest bit with a little bit of pyrrole red light. Just a pinch, that'll tone it down a bit. And we'll start to kind of, yeah. So these are gonna be pretty bright, but if you look at the reference, it really is like that bright. So we're gonna just kind of go with what we see. Let these bright colors dance around in the background. Not be afraid to put it in bright, but just do what we see. I see some of it in the handle there. And I think these bright green tones, they're gonna make that bright pink in the background make more sense too. And don't feel like these little dashes that you're putting, don't feel like you need to put them in exactly the same places as mine. That's not necessary. But I would say don't make them like perfect round circles in the background, because that just looks weird and it makes it look like you're forcing it. You don't want to force it. I don't like that one. It was like too many all the way across. Just take that out. Sorry if you put yours in there. Sometimes one brush stroke can make all the difference, and sometimes it ruins it. Okay. I want to put this green somewhere else in the glass. I just feel like it needs it, so I'm going to maybe put some in over here. Because we know that the glass is reflecting the colors in the background, so we need to just let that happen. Yes, thank you for answering, Carrie. This is acrylic. I'm using golden fluid acrylics for this demo. Okay, let's go back and brighten up that yellow in the mug that I mentioned. So I'm going to go back to that same recipe, but I'm going to add more white to it. So it was Hansa Yellow Opaque, Pyrrole Red Light, and white. Now I'm going to add more white to it. And we're going to put this brighter highlight in just a few places. And let's see, where else do we see it down here? It gets the brightest over on the right side. But we probably see it in a few places. Yeah, we do see it kind of over at the edge where it meets the bottom of the cup, maybe over here. Maybe a little bit like around here. One little dash there, maybe. Yeah, that works. Okay, we haven't put any kind of color on the surface that the mug is sitting on, which is kind of a grayish blue tone. I'm going to put that in with, let's see, we're gonna use Payne's Gray and some white. But I'm also gonna drop a little bit of phthalo green in there. I'm gonna make this kind of like a, more of an emerald, or not emerald, more of like a teal. I'm gonna put some glaze in there. And this is just because I want to. Not necessarily because I see it as teal, but I'm gonna push that gray more towards the teal by adding that little bit of phthalo green in there. And that is mainly because teal looks good with gold. So we're just gonna use what works. And I guess we wanna lighten that teal up over here. You know what, maybe we'll put some in the background, kind of just show that edge of the table that we moved. That's what we're gonna do. So I know the background up here is light, but it wasn't working for me. I wanted to separate it from the table, so I'm going to put it dark behind the edge of that table. And actually, I see this teal in the handle quite a bit, so I'm gonna use some of that in the handle too. Definitely, we see it up here. There are so many colors going on in that mug handle, it's kind of crazy. Don't feel like you have to do every little stroke of detail in there. You'll drive yourself bananas. So a lot of doing this kind of impressionistic style painting is deciding what's important to include and what you should just leave out and don't stress about. And a lot of that, you know, it comes with practice. It comes by following these demos, trying out, you know, the online classes where I really take you step by step through it. The more you paint and the more you try doing some of these different techniques where we aren't putting every little thing in, but we're kind of playing around, the more you do that, the more comfortable you get with it. It's like anything else. I think we'll drop some of this into the background. Just let it play around with those other colors. Add a little glaze in there to thin it out. Okay, I see kind of like a forest green in the handle, and I think I want to get that in there. So I'm going to make that forest green with Payne's Gray, which I need to get some more of. Payne's Gray isn't really gray, it's actually navy blue, if you're confused. So I'm gonna make that kind of dark forest green in the handle with Payne's Gray and a little bit of Hansa Yellow Opaque. Actually, maybe I'll just do those two colors. That might do what I need. Payne's Gray and a little bit of Hansa Yellow Opaque, mostly Payne's Gray. And I'm gonna put that real dark tone in there that I see. putting this in pretty opaque. I want it to be nice and dark. Yeah, and where else do we see that dark? We see it kind of down here, and we see it like right here. So again, I'm getting pretty tight here because I want to get some of these darks really in the right places. And maybe we'll drop a little bit of this dark green into the background too, in some of those places where we've only put the darks in with like that purpley wash. Let's push some of those darks in the background a little bit darker as well with this kind of olive. This is a forest green color I don't use a lot because, like I said before, I don't really like it. But I think for this piece, we need it. Push the dark in the background here a little more. I go back to that. I'm gonna go back to my olive green because I kind of need to like transition that a little bit better. So that olive green was Hansa Yellow Opaque, a little bit of Pyrrole Red Light, and a little bit of that Phthalo Green. You might not need to do this, but I just need to make a transition there real quick. And then we're getting pretty close to the end of this demo. I probably have a few little finishing touches I want to add. And I can finish drinking my beer that I kind of forgot about. So again, I'm just kind of pulling back with this in-between green, kind of softening that transition because I got a little crazy with that forest green. I knew there was a reason I don't use that too much of that color. All right. So I think we will, I just want to put a few little bits of some kind of reddish tones in here because overall the whole piece is pretty cool. So like the mug, the gold in the mug is warm, but otherwise we've got a lot of cool tones. And so I want to kind of just drop in some almost like pinky tones into the mug. I think that's going to look just fun. So I'm going to use some Pyrrole Red Light and white for that. I need to get myself some clean white. And I like this recipe, this Pyrrole Red and White recipe. I actually use this a lot in skin tones, adding these little pops of this pinky kind of coral red. Looks really good in almost any type of skin tone, light tones and dark tones. Putting some little bits of this in is really, really fun. Okay, so where are we gonna drop this pinky tone? I hope I don't regret this, but it'll be fine. Where do I see it? I'm gonna put some on the handle there. We're just gonna do a few bits. Actually, I'm gonna thin it out a little bit with some medium because it's maybe a little too much. A little too much of that intensity. So we're just gonna thin it out. I'm gonna offload my brush onto my rag a little bit. And then I'll just try popping that in a few places where it's not gonna be quite so much. Put it kind of at that transition to the frosty mug at the bottom. I feel like I see some little bits of this color, but we're not gonna do a lot, just a little bit here. And that kind of like mirrors it with the pink that's going on in the background. So that's part of kind of the thought process. And then maybe the last little step I want to do is to add a few little tweaks of the phthalo blue and white recipe. So that's one of my fun kind of little secrets at the end is I like to do these little pops of this kind of bright blue. So it's phthalo blue and white, and I'm going to put some of that into the background, I think, in a few places, and maybe some on the mug too. This is kind of that little secret weapon I like to leave kind of towards the end. Yeah. Oh, that's, yeah, we'll leave it that bright over there. Then I might make it a little bit darker. Put some on the edge of that table. think I'm gonna have this bright color run off the edge here. I think I like that. Yeah, I'm gonna add a little bit more blue. Some deeper blue pops over on the left here, just in a couple places, because we've got it darker over there. And maybe on the edge, the handle here. So this is kind of the stage where it's like everything's pretty much in there, but don't go crazy with trying to get everything like just perfect. This is like often the stage that it's in right now is where I would say you need somebody to tell you to stop painting. So if you're at home and you feel like you're working it to death, you might need somebody to tell you to stop painting. And for me, I have the benefit of running out of time in my demo. So I'm just putting a little bit of green back in, because then you just have to stop. And I'm going to listen to my own advice here as I continue to not do that, but okay. Just kind of softening that transition. Okay. One last thing is going to be like a bright highlight right here with the white recipe, but I need to get all this green off my brush because it's going to gunk it up otherwise. And I'm going to use white and find a clean spot on my palette and just a speck of Hansa Yellow Opaque. I think that's it, just white and Hansa Yellow Opaque, just a speck of Hansa Yellow Opaque. We're just gonna put a couple of little highlights like right here where we see it kind of the brightest, and right there, maybe right there. Okay, do we see it bright anywhere else? Maybe over here. Yeah, I want to get this edge. I need to put my head in front of the camera and get really specific. Okay, yeah, it needed that. You see how that really just brought out that edge? I might do that a little bit more. Okay, I didn't do continuous lines though, because I feel like that would be a little bit too much. Okay, then we're gonna go in with just straight white, add a few dashes, and then we're gonna call it done. So straight white, and I'm gonna put that down at the bottom. I'm just gonna put it where I see it as straight white in the image. Which is not everywhere. We see it kind of right at the edge here. And we got a pretty bright white reflection on the mug here, around the handle. My hand is not steady enough to get that in. There. Sometimes if your hand is wobbling, you just got to do it a little faster. Mine still wasn't quite straight, but when you do like a quick swoop, it's easier to get it to not wobble. Which you would think the opposite, but it works better that way. Okay, I need to stop. I'm gonna call it done. That was fun. Yeah, cheers, you guys. Thank you for joining me in this demo. I hope that you had fun. Also, don't forget, once again, check out the Features and Faces online course. You can see the samples behind me. Enrollment for that course, their intro pricing is through July 1st only. You can still get the course afterwards, but it's gonna cost you more. So you might as well take advantage of the intro pricing, and you get the course for a full year to access anytime. So if summer is busy for you, don't worry about it. You'll have plenty of time. So again, I hope you enjoyed doing the cold brew paint along with me. You can still get the download on my website, Ali K Studio. I would love if you would share this demo. So if you would just hit that share button, it would mean so much to me. Really helps me to keep doing this. Next week is our last paint along in this series and the last one before I take a little break for summer. There'll be no paint alongs in July. So I hope you can join me next week. All right, have a great night, everyone. Take care. Cheers.